Morning, good morning. It is 8 o'clock on the dot, and it is Sunday morning. It is August the 27th. It's time for Coffee Talk. I'm WESH 2 First Warning Meteorologist Eric Burris. We do this 7 days a week. Of course, this time of year, I feel like more people probably join in than normal. Pretty sure, as that little number at the bottom of the screen keeps going up and up and up and up. So this is Coffee Talk. We're going to very briefly chat about our local weather, and then we can move on and see what's doing in the tropics. We'll always have that ticker there and that little icon on the bottom left of your screen. There's Daytona Beach, looking absolutely beautiful. Let me take you to New Smyrna Beach. The sun is shining. Tavares out west, looking great over Lake Dora. Tourist district looking great. Downtown Orlando looking great. Checking in on Lake Eola. Yep, all looking good this morning. Temperatures out the door. Sure, it's going to be a little warm out in spots this morning. 82 degrees in Melbourne, 79 in Orlando, but like 73 degrees in Palm Coast. That's not bad. That's seriously not a bad day. So where do we go from here? Forecast does include a few additional showers and even a few thunder showers. We're going with 93 for a high temperature today and a 40% coverage of rainfall. So it's not going to be a soaker of a day, but we are going to see at least a little bit of activity to track. Okay, so that's a quick look at our forecast. Of course, now, though, we need to chat tropics, and that's probably why most of y'all are going to be here, okay? Just got a brand new update from the National Hurricane Center, so I want to get right to it. There's the latest statistics. 8 a.m. advisory. Winds are at 35 miles an hour, and you've got that certainly there on the bottom left side of your screen. Now, a couple of things. I just want to take note of what the Hurricane Center said here, okay, in their public advisory. Depression nearing tropical storm intensity expected to strengthen into a hurricane over the eastern Gulf of Mexico in a couple of days' time, okay? So there's that. There's that. Could have a tropical storm in short order. Tropical Depression 10. So what's the forecast cone from the National Hurricane Center, okay? Of course, it's a forecast. You're going to see models and this and that, but I want to make sure that you see the best data that you can. Okay, so here's the forecast from the National Hurricane Center. Expected to meander around today and then slowly start lifting up to the north. Okay, so there you go. By later today or tomorrow, becoming a tropical storm. Idalia is the name, and then becoming a hurricane. Tuesday, 2 p.m., winds at 85. Wednesday, 2 a.m., just off the coast of Florida, winds are at 90, and then, of course, moving through. So what would a trajectory like this mean for Central Florida? Well, it all depends on how big it is and its actuality of forecast. So this is the forecast product from the National Hurricane Center. And at this moment in time, our western areas are looking at a 20% likelihood of tropical storm force winds. The metro area, 10%, and Brevard County, about a 10% chance of that. But that's just because at this time we haven't calculated it out yet because it's just far out. But we're going to be watching this product as chances for tropical storm force winds rise. But at this point, it's a 10-20% chance, and that will rise as we fine-tune the positioning of the storm system. So what could that mean in terms of local impacts? Gusty winds, heavy downpours, that whole thing. And being that it would put us on the right front quadrant of this storm system, you also can't forget the need for preparing for isolated severe weather. That right front quadrant always has just a little bit of extra torque, which would mean there's the potential for a brief spin-up tornado or something of the like. So usually they're weak tornadoes. Usually it's not a major concern, but we just need to make sure to, pay attention to that, right? So these are all kind of the thought processes. So before we get in depth with anything more, let's just take a minute and look at our kind of storm prep timeline. This is a graphic that is very important to me because it lets you know where our confidence in the forecast is and what we should be doing to prep. Now, I always say preparation is essential in hurricane season. So today we just need to be thinking about the possibility because, and I'll get back to that in just a moment, but because should that storm hang on the right side, if the center of circulation hangs on the right side of this cone of confidence, if the center of circulation goes there, you're talking like an Ocala center of circulation, and thus it would put all of Central Florida under more impacts. If it hangs in the center, then it would be less impacts for Central Florida. If it hangs on the left side, it would be less impacts in Central Florida. So as long as there's the potential that that center of circulation impacts us, we need to be looking at preparing, okay? So today, just think, like, what would I need to do if a hurricane is approaching, all right? So for me personally, it's like, all right, I've got groceries, just doing my normal grocery runs, making sure that like loose articles, so it would be like pulling in lawn furniture, that sort of thing. So that's all I'm doing. Tomorrow, go out and finalize, non-perishable, things like that. Just topping off the hurricane kit, essentially. Just the little things, right? And then into Tuesday, that's when it's going to be kind of finishing any prep Tuesday morning, if it looks that way. If I'm honest, the model guidance, though, has been very kind of laser beamed west of us at a pretty good distance. And so at least my heart feels good at the moment thinking that. Now, this can change, so we have to understand that. But there's kind of the forecast cone guidance. This is what the Hurricane Center is looking at, kind of a big bend kind of thing. And if the center of circulation follows this, then it would mean fewer impacts per se for us in Central Florida. So that's good, but just know these things can and do change around just a little bit. Shelby says, I do not want a repeat of Hurricane Michael. I don't think anybody wants a repeat of Hurricane Michael. So what I'd like to do is show you the latest model data, okay? The 6Z is the latest model data that we have. All right, so this is our Futurecast model, okay? And watch how through the day today, that's 6 p.m. tonight, we're already seeing, at least on our Futurecast model, this wanting to perhaps become a hurricane or getting to hurricane intensity. And then they're looking at tomorrow. Now, one thing to note is that our Futurecast model has absolutely been on the higher end of intensity. That's as far as Futurecast goes, okay? 2 a.m. Wednesday, at least on this 6C run. But Futurecast is saying major hurricane. All right? So, and for those of you that have been around, you remember Futurecast did a great job with Ian. So the fact that our in-house model is showing a major hurricane, it's at least a point of contention. It's a point of like, and it's been consistently overperforming on intensity. So to me, that's definitely in play. Christy's asking, why wouldn't it be a major hurricane? It makes sense to me. Well, the water temperatures are warm enough, but, is there a wind shear component? That sort of thing. I think if it closes off its low today, then that's definitely in play. If it stays fairly weak today into tomorrow, then it may not be in play. But I think that it's a possibility for sure. Looking at the latest trends and kind of how it did what it did yesterday and then looking ahead to today, okay? So that's our Futurecast model. It doesn't go out as far because it's a higher resolution model grid, all right? And I'll just share with you, like, this is the 0Z, the overnight model run. Same thing. It was bringing a major hurricane. It didn't go out as far. It only went till 8 p.m., but you can see, kind of that same idea. And if we went to 18Z yesterday, give me just a second and I'll pull that up. Give me 2 seconds. I got to load it up. 18Z yesterday. All right. So here's yesterday. And, yesterday it was still going hurricane, maybe a major or just a decent category 1, 2. But if we look at that, and that's 18Z, if we even go back to 12Z yesterday, give me 2 seconds. Let me load that up. You'll see 12Z yesterday was even still going stronger than the rest of the guidance. Like that's 12Z yesterday, and that's as far out as it went. Yeah, and it was still showing a pretty decent little hurricane. So each run by run by run, our Futurecast model has been stronger than the rest of the model suite. It's been an outlier, but you got to hand it to the model for consistency. I can't take Futurecast further out because it's a higher resolution grid, so it just doesn't. All right, let's switch over to the GFS model. All right, and see what the GFS is showing. All right, the GFS is a little slower with the intensification, but the GFS does bring like a Cat 2 into the panhandle. There's 11 a.m. on Wednesday morning. And that's the 6Z. If we look at the 00Z, a very similar scenario there. Strong hurricane into the panhandle. European, the 6Z is coming in. I don't know if we've got a ton of data from it yet. I don't think we do. Yeah, that's as far out as it goes. So let's go to the 0Z just because that's the last full run of the Euro that we have. And, at the very last minute, it's kind of strengthening, but it's more of a big bend. So it looks like it's a the model suite as a whole is like a panhandle big bend kind of scenario. So, and that's what everything's showing. And you know what I haven't done yet? Give me a few seconds. I want to try and throw together all of the ensemble plots, and I haven't done this yet. Give me a few seconds to make some spaghetti here, or make sausage, I should say. There's 10. There's 10. Tropical track. 10. So this is the ensemble plots. The European and GFS ensembles. And the GFS is definitely wanting to lean a little more right. The European is definitely wanting to lean a little more left, right? So, at the end of the day, what you can end up with is like an oversaturation of model data, and it just confuses you. That's definitely not the idea here, but you at least get an idea of where the European and the GFS ensembles are, It helps. It helps us kind of understand. So with that said, questions, comments, concerns, that sort of thing. Does anybody have any interest? Chris over on YouTube, curious to know if the track could shift more east when the hurricane hunters bring more data of what the storm is actually doing. Yeah, the storm could do any number of things. And as a matter of fact, I would expect there to be changes once that recon data gets in there. There are many Hurricane Hunter flights. Matter of fact, right now, there's where the mission is. It's just due north of Jamaica. They're flying at flight level 210 or 21,000 feet. So they're still not to the storm yet, but they're getting there. They're getting closer and closer. Their little Hurricane Hunter icon is right where it says forecast high 94 on the bottom of the screen there. Yeah, that's where it is right now. So, I would fully expect once they get closer, us to kind of tweak some data out. And I've got all of my products ready to go and ready to analyze this. All right, so that's kind of where we're at right now. So forecast thinking is still on par, still thinking a hurricane is moving toward Florida at some point, mid this week. Tuesday, Wednesday, that kind of a time frame. Yeah. All right. What other questions? What other questions do you? I would think the stronger the storm, the more east it would be. I would agree with that. Looks like it drifted south and east, probably going to go over Cuba. Yeah, Drake, if that's the case, the first model that indicated that sort of motion was our Futurecast model. And so that would lead me to believe that at least that's in play, interestingly enough. So, yeah. Does this hurricane look like any previous one from Florida? It looks a lot like a bunch of hurricanes. Each one has its own identity, and so you can't just call it apples for apples. Jeffrey's asking about impacts for Tampa. It's too early to do that. Janice, thank you for your updates. Appreciate you. My pleasure. Do you think Central Florida should still pay close attention? 100%. 100% I do. We are not out of the woods. We're not out of the woods. That forecast cone very much is representing at least too close for comfort. Now, once we zero in, if it's not here, then that's different. But for right now, that's not the case. And so we have to watch and very closely monitor the progression. Okay. As I mentioned, this is Futurecast winds. All right. And unfortunately, the problem is that it doesn't go out far enough to be able to get you. You know, this is kind of as far out as it goes as 2 a.m. And you can see it starting to get gusty. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to show you. You know what I'm going to do? I'll take some raw model data. Give me just a few seconds here, and I will pop up you. Let me just get logged in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some of the models, and it's tiny on my little laptop screen here. Cities. Wind. I know that this is probably a very unattractive look. All right. So this is the peak gust swath graphic. This is raw model data, but this is peak gust swath graphic, okay? So look here, and according to the GFS, you're looking at winds gusting in the metro area, 30 to 40 miles an hour out east, upper 30 mile per hour range, whereas approaching 50 mile per hour gusts in our western areas. Now, we get that kind of gusty weather during severe thunderstorms. One thing to remember, though, is that this would be, you know, a little more of a kind of an elongated type event. All right, so that's the GFS. Let's look at the European. All right, there's the winds for the European, 30 to 40 mile per hour gusts. If we look at the Canadian, yeah, 30 to 40 mile per hour gusts, that sort of thing. I do want to look while I'm here. I want to look at the icon. See what the icon's doing. States, Florida, pressure, mean sea level pressure. Just to see what the icon's doing with it. You can see it kind of there in the bottom left corner. Yeah, so the icon's Big Bend. And then, let's come over here. HAFS. We'll switch over to, man, my eyes are just, there we go. All right. So the 6E on that model is just starting to run, but let's run it. Yeah, that's a Big Bend. That's a decent little low. So what would we be looking about? Low, wind speeds there. Yeah, I mean, that's big winds. So, you know, I'm not writing off the Big Bend at all, and even like the Nature Coast part of the Big Bend. So that's why, you know, that's why we have to watch this, because if that plays out, that would be more impact for us in Central Florida. So let's just take a look at the 7-day forecast together here. And what you'll notice is that we've got tracking the tropics on the maps there, right? We've got tracking the tropics in, letting you know that particularly Tuesday into Wednesday, that's it. That's the ball game. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we'll kind of have to see how that plays out. All right, questions. Let's see here. Wind shear, moving it around. Wind shear is definitely a thing. Wind shear is definitely a player in this. It's not a ton of wind shear, though, and that's the concern. And so because of the fact that it's not a ton of wind shear and the fact that we've got not quite peak, but darn near peak tropical cyclone heat potential here. You know, there is concern that this will not only intensify, but rapidly intensify, just as, was it Michael, or it was Michael that rapidly intensified. So yeah. All right, let's see here. Lots and lots of comments, and I apologize. When any tropical system is south of your latitude, it always bears watching, particularly when it gets into the Gulf of Mexico. Because the problem is, when you put a storm in the Gulf of Mexico, the problem is it's going to have to go somewhere. And so that's where that is. All right. Let's see here. We'll keep a close eye on this one. Could get interesting. Have a lot of yard stuff to square away. And I think that that's why, you know, when people are asking, should we be watching this, that sort of thing, the answer is absolutely. And that's why this graphic to me really illustrates, because you can always work a plan and then say, all right, no big deal, stop. It's not going to do that. But you're at least working a plan. You don't want to fall behind the 8 ball, which is why it's just a matter of, today's just thinking, like, what would I need to do should something bother us? All right? Justin's asking a great question on YouTube. What will determine how soon it turns right? That's a great question. So watch the surface map here, okay? So there's the wide shot, all right? You've got the tropical depression, bottom left corner. You've got this weak frontal boundary on the top of the screen. And as tropical storm Idalia works into the Gulf, that cold front is dipping south. And it's going to be the interaction of a hurricane and that cold front. And it's essentially that cold front that will sweep it into Florida. The same scenario we saw with Charlie. Timing is different, though. So it's not like, I'm not saying that this is going to go into Southwest Florida, okay? But the same scenario that we saw for Charlie or Ian last year. It's just a matter of when does this time out? That front steering Idalia and, Big Bend is kind of the thought process right now. But that's the overall idea in terms of dynamics. All right. It's a squirrely bird. Tropical meteorology is absolutely my favorite, but man, can it be a squirrely bird? Yeah. How much rain will Central Florida get is a decent amount, 3 to 5 inches probably, but it's a little too early to really go dive that deep. Yeah. Sonia, if that front moves down quicker, can it push this more east towards Central Florida? Yeah, which is why we have to be such on alert. Gabby, okay, confused. Why would Big Bend have more effect for us? Because it would be closer. Big Bend versus the Panhandle. If it goes to the Panhandle, it'd be further away. But if it's in the Big Bend, it would be the closer it is to us, the more impacts. So if it's the Panhandle, that's further away, less impacts. Okay. Christina, do you anticipate any school closures for Lee County? I think we just have to watch this. It's too early to tell. Yeah, it's too early to tell. All right. I wish that I could give you that information, but again, when we look at that, that's one of the reasons why this graphic is so key. Look at the confidence there. Impact confidence is medium. When we get into high confidence, tomorrow we'll have a better idea. There's no need to cancel school tomorrow, so they don't need to do that. But once the confidence grows, then we can start to make those decisions, right? In the meantime, that's kind of where we're at. So for now, no freaking out. Don't buy all the dang toilet paper, but just be watching. That's all. How much time, Christina? 3:20. All right. Let's see here. Is the H-Wharf a good track model, Troy? They all have their goods. They all have their bads. Yeah. I feel like models do not read the right turn soon enough. Ethan, the models are doing a really great job. We just have to see how this plays out. It's, even our Futurecast model is showing a fairly similar scenario, looks like a Big Bend. I think it's probably going to end up wanting to go to the Big Bend. If it strengthens, it could be a little closer to us. And that's my biggest concern, if I'm honest with you, is that if it tries to strengthen and it'll get a little closer to us. Jaylene, Volusia will be out, or we expect some winds and rain. It's too early. It's too early. It's too early to get into specificity yet, okay? We don't have computer model data on the mesoscale level yet. We don't have recon data going into the model. So it's too early. It's too early. It's too early. All right? It's possible that Orlando gets tropical storm conditions. Jamie, are you and Jeremy going to do a track in the tropics? I can guarantee you we're going to be doing extra tracking the tropics this week. I can guarantee it. Yeah. Oh, I love this. Linda says this isn't a first grade class. Please stop talking to us like it is. Linda, you can go somewhere else if you don't like this. That's the bottom line, fam. Okay? I'm not talking to you like a first grader. You don't like it? Go find somebody else. Why isn't it pronounced Italia like I don't know, Yukon. I don't know. Carla says it's too early. It's too early. All right, I'm going to go do TV. Be good, y'all. Be the sunshine in someone else's day. First grade. Get out of here. Hi, Gavolt. I'll be posting data and models through the day. Christina's dying back there. I'll be posting computer model data, all that fun stuff through the day. All right, stay tuned. We'll keep you up to date.